General Hospital spoilers reveal that the death of Denise Alexander, who played the iconic Dr. Lesley Weber on General Hospital, on March 5, 2025 not only closed a memorable chapter in the history of daytime television, but also unexpectedly opened a dark door, leading to one of the most dangerous and crazy developments in recent years of GH. Her departure not only left viewers with endless grief, but also ignited a fierce whirlwind surrounding the legacy that Lesley left behind, a legacy that seemed to be at peace, but is now being disturbed by unseen forces, who are trying to exploit it for shady and dangerous purposes. At first, what happened after Lesley's death seemed like a series of simple tributes, characters recalling old memories, flashbacks, touching farewells. But then, little by little, that mournful atmosphere begins to change, bringing with it a sense of horror and haunting. Some of the secrets that Lesley had kept hidden throughout her life begin to be exposed, causing the people of Port Charles not only to grieve but also to be bewildered. Old photos that have gone missing suddenly appear, unsent letters are found in Lesley's house, and names that were thought to have been forgotten return with deadly force. This not only stirs up the emotions of those close to Lesley, but also opens a dangerous and bloody new chapter, where the past does not sleep. What is even more terrifying is that the mysteries surrounding her death are being exploited in a sophisticated way. A mysterious figure has appeared in the shadows, someone whose identity is unknown, but who seems to have been closely related to Lesley in the past. The figure begins to manipulate events in Port Charles, using memories, images, and even Lesley's own personal trauma to sow doubt, fear, and division. Anonymous messages are sent to Laura, recordings of Lesley's voice are edited and played back in the hospital. Strange figures appear outside the Weber home in the middle of the night, all of it creates a tense atmosphere in Port Charles. Some believe it's a plot to overthrow the legacy Lesley has built her life on. Others believe it's a personal vendetta, or even an unexplained supernatural phenomenon. The chaos only deepens when the Weber children begin to experience strange occurrences. From sudden accidents to recurring nightmares in which they all hear Lesley's voice calling their names in the dark. Some of the older figures in the hospital also begin to recall things they thought were buried, disappearing medical records, mysterious patients that only Lesley treated, and silent tears that no one can explain. All of this adds up to a picture that is so confusing and strange that it makes people wonder. Did Lesley leave behind something too dangerous to be forgotten? The story surrounding Lesley's death is no longer a sad farewell, but the center of a new storm, a tragedy filled with lies, secrets, and ambition. And most terrifying of all, it not only revives old memories but also pits her loved ones against forces that have long existed in the shadows. Laura, the daughter her mother once protected from all odds, now faces a chilling truth. Lesley's legacy could be the seed of destruction if not properly protected. The events surrounding Lesley's death become increasingly tense and absurd, to the point that even longtime General Hospital watchers have exclaimed that the story has never been so crazy and haunting. It is not just the loss of a legendary figure, but the beginning of an unprecedented series of disasters, where the lines between truth and illusion, between present and past, are increasingly blurred. And in that chaos, Port Charles is once again falling into a spiral of no escape, originating from the name Lesley Weber. General Hospital is entering an emotional and haunting phase as the production team decides to stage a special memorial for Lesley Weber, one of the show's most iconic characters, played by the late Denise Alexander. However, contrary to the initial idea that this is just a simple, warm and nostalgic tribute, this event opens a gateway to one of the most shocking and crazy stories Port Charles has ever seen, where Lesley's last images are not simply a goodbye but become the key to a secret sealed for decades, a truth that could change the entire history the people here know, and from there, all of them into a new obsession deeper and more dangerous than ever. The tribute was initially presented as a series of special episodes that revisited memorable moments from Lesley's vivid journey, from her early years as a devoted doctor and strong mother, to her later, tearful and determined appearances. Old photos, archive footage, and even unaired voice diaries were meant to be presented as a sentimental farewell to longtime viewers. But as the first episodes of the tribute aired, the solemn, mournful atmosphere quickly gave way to a chilling, unsettling feeling. Viewers began to realize that Lesley's final images were being replayed not just as a flashback, but as a mysterious record leading to an untold story, a conspiracy hidden beneath layers of time and calculated silence. While preparing for her mother's memorial service, Lesley's daughter, Laura, stumbles upon a locked box of old documents in the basement of her mother's former home. Inside are videos, letters, and medical notes of unknown origin, most of which are in Lesley's handwriting and words, but which contain previously unknown information, the names of patients who have mysteriously disappeared, surgeries not recorded in hospital records, and especially a series of unsent letters written to an unidentified man. The more Laura reads, the more she becomes confused and suspicious, as the details suggest that her mother was involved in a serious medical incident, perhaps an irreparable error, or worse, a deliberate cover-up to protect someone from legal punishment. And that's just the beginning. As the tributes continued to air, viewers and Port Charles residents alike began to notice anomalies in the footage. Some of the footage appeared to have never been filmed before, and there were conversations that Laura and those closest to Lesley claimed they had never heard. Some segments even showed Lesley talking to an unseen figure in a dark space unlike any other location on the show. People began to question, were these truly recovered documents, or were they a setup meant to distort viewers' memories? Or worse, to convey a hidden message, a warning that Lesley herself had left before she passed away. As the tributes progressed, the plot became darker and more breathless. The older characters in town, who were once Lesley's friends and colleagues, begin to react strangely. Some fall into depression after seeing old photos. Others suddenly withdraw from social life and refuse to answer any questions about the past. One of them whispered that Lesley knew more than she ever told me, and that her legacy is not just her memory, but her confession. Strange phenomena began to appear at the hospital. Recording devices would turn on at night, the filing system would keep giving out errors, and voices that sounded exactly like Lesley's could be heard on the intercom even though she was clearly dead. Some believed it was just coincidence or a group psychotic effect, but others began to believe that Lesley herself, or at least her memory, was trying to convey a long-buried truth that, if exposed, could completely destroy the image she left in everyone's hearts. What had once been a memorial project to honor the dead had turned into a storm of emotion and doubt. Lesley's legacy is no longer just her years of service, her love for her daughter, or her kindness to her patients. It is now tied to a deadly secret, one that could send the entire town spiraling into doubt and destruction. And as each tribute airs, the people of Port Charles realize they are no longer watching a memorial, but rather being drawn into a game of memory, where truth and lies are so intertwined that no one can tell the difference. Lesley is gone, but her legacy is shaking the town, and no one knows if it is the beginning of the truth, or a curse that no one dares to lift. Actress Jeannie Francis has officially confirmed that one of the most poignant news stories on General Hospital is underway, revolving around Laura Spencer Collins and the haunting journey she embarks on to protect the legacy of her late mother, Lesley Weber. After the sudden passing of Denise Alexander, who had played the role of Lesley for decades and became an icon of the show, the filmmakers did not stop at just a simple tribute, but decided to push the story further, recreating an emotional and spiritual shock that lasted throughout the inner world of Laura, a girl who not only carried on her shoulders the pain of losing her mother, but also the responsibility of preserving a past that was increasingly distorted, falsified, and threatened by unknown dark forces. Jeannie Francis, who accompanied the character of Laura from when she was an innocent teenager until she became one of the strongest central characters of GH, affirmed that this event was not just a memory, but a comprehensive confrontation between memory and reality, between truth and manipulation. The actions Laura will take in the coming episodes are not simply an emotional response to loss, but a major adjustment in how she views the mother she once worshipped, a shift in how she understands her connection to Lesley's legacy. It is not just the story of a daughter trying to protect her mother's sacred image, but the intense internal struggle of a woman facing the possibility that what she once believed to be absolute can be shattered by a single misstep, a single exposed secret, a single forgotten word. The new story takes place not only outside, in the world of Port Charles, which is being shaken by questions surrounding documents, photos, recordings, and videos related to Lesley. But also plays out strongly in Laura's mind, where she begins to be haunted by recurring dreams in which her mother appears with vague and urgent warnings. Strange nightmares wake her up at night with the feeling that she is being watched, as if her mother's memories are trying to lead her to a place where the truth is hidden in the shadows. Every unread letter, every unseen video, every voice over the hospital intercom becomes a clue on an increasingly confusing journey. No one knows whether what Laura is discovering is the rest of the truth or a dangerous reenactment created by someone else with the intention of manipulating the entire image that Lesley once represented. And that's why Jeannie Francis calls it one of the most profound and necessary adjustments in Laura's character development, because it forces her to step out from under her mother's shadow. Not to forget, but to truly understand and accept. Laura is no longer a child mourning her mother, but the keeper of a spirit, a monument. And also someone who walks the thin line between protecting memories and uncovering the truth. It's a test not just of loyalty but of courage, because the closer Laura gets to the truth, the more it becomes clear that this memorial is no longer simply a way to honor a legendary figure, but a subtle and dark portrait of how memories can be altered, sometimes by outsiders, but also sometimes by those who love them most, either intentionally or unintentionally. And that's what's haunting Laura most, the sense of uncertainty, fear, and heaviness that she's trying to protect something that's cracking every day, something that even she herself doesn't fully believe in anymore. A legacy, a mother-daughter bond. A piece of Port Charles history, all of it is hanging on the edge, just waiting for the slightest touch of truth to knock it down. With this reconfiguration, General Hospital is proving that nothing is permanent, not even in memory, and that no character, no matter how venerable, can escape the scrutiny of time and truth. And in the eye of that storm is Laura, the woman, the daughter, the warrior, fighting not just to protect her mother, but to protect her own identity. As everything she knows is slowly disintegrating into strange, fragmented, and haunting pieces. This is no longer a story of a departure, but the beginning of a new tragedy, deeper, more dangerous, and perhaps, irreversible. The audience of General Hospital is truly in a state of shock when the final footage of the late actress Denise Alexander, who played Dr. Lesley Weber, is revealed as part of a special tribute series. Those images are not only an emotional farewell to an icon of the daytime drama series, but also a mysterious door opening to a new story filled with confusion, doubt, and obsession. No one could have guessed that behind the quiet, peaceful appearance of Lesley's final moments, there was a secret that had never been revealed, a secret that could not only turn the Weber family's past upside down but also throw Port Charles's future into chaos. It was Laura Spencer Collins, Lesley's daughter, who would be the one to hold the key to unlocking the rest of her mother's legacy. But the scary thing is, what Laura was about to discover was not as good as she had thought. On the contrary, she was gradually uncovering a truth that could shake the sacred image that Lesley had built throughout her life to its core. Laura's decision to pursue clues related to her mother was not simply out of love or gratitude, but also because of a strong feeling that Lesley's last images were not just memories but messages. Signs of instability, a danger that Lesley herself tried to warn about but did not have time to say it. As Laura digs deeper into her quest to reconstruct Lesley's legacy, witnesses who worked with Lesley suddenly refuse to cooperate or disappear without a trace. What seemed like archival footage now becomes the focus of a host of questions. Why did Lesley mention a secret patient who had never been recorded? Why are there strange voices heard on the footage that no one recognizes? Why does Laura feel like her mother is trying to convey something, a warning, a painful truth, a cry for help from the other side? Things get even crazier when Laura discovers a hidden section of Lesley's will that mentions a specific asset that must be protected at all costs, along with a strange note. Open only when things start to fall apart. Laura doesn't know whether to take it literally or metaphorically, but the deeper she digs, the closer she feels that she's getting to something unimaginable. She begins to encounter negative reactions from those around her. Former supporters turn their backs, authorities refuse to cooperate. And even Laura herself begins to wonder if she's walking into a dead-end maze left by her own mother. For viewers, what is happening on General Hospital right now is like a nightmare wrapped in a shell of memory. Denise Alexander's final scenes are no longer the resting place of a legend but the catalyst for a series of uncontrollable events, where past and present collide, truth and illusion blend. And where legacy is no longer something to be cherished, but a double-edged sword that can stab all who touch it. Laura is in the middle of an unnamed war, where she is forced to confront not only the collapse of her mother's image in her mind, but also the madness that is spreading throughout Port Charles, a madness that stems from legacy. From a distorted past, from blind love, and secrets sealed away for too long. The story that viewers are watching is no longer a tribute, but the fragmentation of a legend. And amid the chaos, one can't help but wonder, could Lesley Weber's death be just the beginning of an even more terrifying storm brewing? General Hospital's hint that Cyrus Renault will return during Lesley Weber's memorial service has shaken the entire audience and put the Port Charles community on high alert. The event, which was meant to honor a town icon, now threatens to become a new battlefield, not of grief, but of dangerous calculations and unresolved grudges. If Cyrus does show up, it will not only be a personal shock to Laura and Martin Gray, two people still trying to heal from the past, but also set off a chain of events that could change the entire story surrounding Lesley's legacy. Cyrus has always been a complex force, dangerous, scheming, and deeply wounded, especially when it comes to fractured family relationships. Returning at a sensitive moment, when everyone is trying to honor and protect Lesley's sacred image, Cyrus could pose not only an emotional disruption but also a symbolic threat. He once haunted Laura with cold hatred and made Martin live in fear with his shadowy and uncontrollable connections. Now, if he resurfaces, Cyrus's choice to appear at the memorial is more than just a simple provocation. It is a strategic and symbolic move, as he places himself at the center of attention, taking the space that was meant for mourning and gratitude and turning it into a forum for anger, hatred and revenge. Laura, who is trying to hold on to her mother as a symbol of conscience and forgiveness, will be forced to face an unforeseen challenge, when the dark past of her broken relationship with Cyrus comes into focus in the midst of an event that was meant to be healing. Martin Gray is no exception. Childhood trauma, repressed memories, unfulfilled responsibilities, and the fear of Cyrus Renault are now resurfacing at the same time as Lesley's funeral. The fact that both Laura and Martin are forced to confront Cyrus in the symbolic and spiritual space of a memorial service is not only a subtle arrangement by the writers, but also a crazy adjustment in the plot structure, a shocking twist that blurs the lines between love and hate, between grief and resistance. The tension will not stop at personal emotions, but will spread like a psychological fever throughout the entire Port Charles community. Will Cyrus come as a true repentant? Or is this just a mask hiding another sinister plan to destroy what Lesley left behind? Will his return be the spark that burns down all the efforts Laura is making to protect her mother? And will Martin have the courage to face the truth for the first time, not run away, not deny, but stand upright in the shadow of his brother who has always haunted his childhood? This event, and if Lesley's memorial is where he chooses to reappear, it's clear that it's not just an emotional or familial thing. It's a carefully calculated move, a breakthrough in the plot. A huge psychological and structural shock, an undercurrent that could destroy everything Laura is trying to hold on to. The audience is not only waiting to see if Cyrus will actually appear, but also dreading what will happen next, when the ghosts of the past rise amid the funeral bells, when a mother who was honored in tears becomes the center of a new war, where the loss has not yet subsided before the haunting comes. And that's the climax tragedy that General Hospital is quietly preparing for the audience, a dramatic reversal. An alarm bell for even crazier things to come very soon.